Okay, I had to show y'all this book, right? Serious. This book is about 100 years old. It's called the Book of Knowledge. It's actually a children's book, almost 100 years old. Heavy book, solid book. I was fortunate enough to find it, to get it, right? Check it out. Let me show you some things that you definitely want to see. The Book of Knowledge, Children's Encyclopedia. Alright? Check it out. Alright, let me see here. Look at the date. (1922). 1922. We're about to hit 2024. Alright? So you count that. It's about 100 years old. Alright? So check this out. This is about the Indians. North America before the white man. Indian sculpture and building. This sculpture is supposed to be this stone is supposed to be the work of the Aztec Indians, whom the Cortez found in Mexico for 400 years ago. Right? Trying to show y'all something quickly. Alright, check this out. What does that say? North America before the white man. Take a look. Indian pictures, 3 centuries old. Alright, so I'm going to read this to y'all. Go from here. We have spoken several times of the fact that the Indians were so often at war. This frequently happened because of the fact that one tribe hunted on the ground that was claimed by another. You think of the country as having been full of Indians. This is not true, for when the white men came, there were probably not as many as 200,000 Indians in what is now Canada. In the United States there were more, but men who have studied the subject say that when the white man came, there were not more than 500,000 Indians in what is now the United States. They have not died out so rapidly as people think. Now, people who live chiefly by hunting must have a large territory for game. Does not stay in one place like cows or sheep. Sometimes a hunter would go for days without finding anything, or if he did find it, a bow and arrow is not so good a weapon as a gun, and the deer often got away. So in order to get close to it, he had to learn to move quietly and to learn to follow tracks. It is not true that the Indians had keener sight than the white man who lived the same kind of life. Some of the white scouts and hunters, as we shall learn hereafter, were quite as skillful as Indians. Torture of captives taken in war. When captives were taken, sometimes they were killed on the spot, but generally they were taken back to the villages. Women and children were spared to help the squaws with their work. Sometimes young men and boys were adopted into the tribe to take the place of warriors who had fallen in battle. More were tortured in various ways. Sometimes the captives was fastened to a tree, and the boys and young men throw tomahawks at him, trying to see how near they could come without hitting him. But his pride kept him still, for to dodge would have been considered cowardly. Finally, he was sometimes fastened to a stake. Wood was piled around his feet and set on fire. As the flames grew better, he sang his death song, telling how brave he and his tribe had always been. When the Indians captured white men, they tortured them in the same way. The Indians in Canada tortured many of the Jesuit missionaries who went out to preach to them. Hunters were captured, tortured if they were captured. You will find the names of many Indians tribes as you read the history of Canada and the United States, but I shall give only a few of them now. The Indians east of the Rocky Mountains were divided into four great stocks called the Algonquin or Algonquin, the Huron, Iroquois, the Athapascan, and the Maskaki or Muskogean. The last lived in the south, and the principal tribes were the Chickasaws, Choctaws, Creeks, and Seminoles. Their descendants now live in Canada and the United States near the Great Lakes, and the principal tribes were the Five Nations, the Eries and the Hurons, the Cherokees and the Tuscaroras who lived in North Carolina and Tennessee were also Iroquois. The Algonquins lived in a wide they The last lived in the south, and the principal tribes were the Chickasaws, Choctaws, Creeks, and Seminoles. The descendants now live chiefly in Oklahoma. The Iroquois lived in Canada and United States near the Great Lakes, and the principal tribes were the Five Nations, the Eries and the Hurons, the Cherokees and the Tuscaroras who lived in North Carolina and Tennessee were also Iroquois. The Algonquins lived in a wide stretch of country from Nova Scotia to the Rocky Mountains. Many tribes belonged to the Algonquin stock. They were seldom so fierce as the Iroquois.